think you're putting out fires now as a technologist, just wait till you have agents running loose in your organization. You'll really be putting out fires.
Welcome to the /podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. I'm your host, James Carman, and today we're talking to Michael Pompey. Michael Pompey is the AI evangelist at Arrow Electronics, where he helps organizations turn artificial intelligence into real-world business transformation through IBM Watson X. A former Chief Information and Transformation Officer for the Girl Scouts of Eastern Pennsylvania, Michael has led major digital modernization efforts across mission-driven organizations. With over 2 decades in technology leadership and a career that began in juvenile justice analytics, he's passionate about using data and AI to drive social impact and innovation. Welcome to the /, Michael.
Thanks, James. I really appreciate you inviting me on, man. This sounds great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, we were at a conference, at the same conference a few weeks back, and I really enjoyed your keynote. And I was like, man, he came out of the gate with like, I'm Gen X through and through. And I'm like, this guy's got to come on our podcast. So I love that.
Yeah, rate it Gen X for your pleasure.
That's so great. That was a great intro. All right. So we talked a little bit about this when we ran into each other at the conference, but the Girl Scouts,
yes,
that's not like a business people normally have on their dossier, so to speak. So tell me about what kind of unique challenges do the Girl Scouts face, and why would they need a Chief Information and Transformation Officer?
It's interesting you say that, right? So for folks that don't have that on their dossier, that's their loss, because the Girl Scouts is a wonderful organization. I cannot sing its praises enough. And it's interesting, my first day working there, I'm going through onboarding, and I realized, how bootleg my particular personal experience was with the Cub Scouts when I got to see all of the great things that our girls get to do, being part of that organization. So first off, it's a wonderful organization. And the thing is, it's interesting because, like a lot of mission-based or nonprofit organizations, the Girl Scouts is a true enterprise. If you think about just Girl Scout cookies, right? That's $2 billion annually. No one really understands just how much that means. And if you think about the same tool sets, the same needs that a large for-profit enterprise has, so does a nonprofit, right? So they're running Salesforce, and they've got data warehouses, and they've got supply chain issues, and they need metrics and analytics, right? And they're trying to leverage their data in ways to reach new customers and generate leads and follow through and pipeline. It's the same thing, right? It's the old saying that, it's all sales. So when I heard about some of the areas they were looking to go, when I was thinking about, hey, what's going to be my next stop, I heard their needs, and I told myself, this is a wonderful organization. They deserve to have a leader with this background that can take them to the next step. So it's unfortunate that more organizations like that don't have CIOs or chief transformation officers, because they certainly need it, because they're facing the same hurdles as everybody else. So that's how I ended up there, and was, blessed to be able to give, close to 3 years worth of time towards some of those missions, and learn so much, from the parents to the girls. I mean, it was so impressive. I learned so much as a leader, as well as from some of the teammates. And I will have to admit, yes, I did get my overdose on caramel delight cookies. I must have picked up 5 pounds my first year being there, but at the end of the day, I learned to pace myself. But yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing about that, James, I want to say, is that a lot of times, and I always tell people when I'm talking, right, if anyone's working with a government agency or a mission-based nonprofit, thank you for your service. I salute you, because those kind of organizations are often asked to do not only more with less, but sometimes they're asked to do more with zero. So you have to be a more efficient, transformative, right, cutting edge tech leader in those kind of environments, because you just can't go out and get budget, right? Particularly if it's government, right? Then you got a ton of hoops, ton of compliance, ton of procurement you got to stand up. So you need to be able to move your partners. You need to think innovatively out of the box, whatever, to get things done, because not only do you not have it, but you're also impacting people's lives at the end of the day. So you can't afford to drop the ball and be slow. So it takes a special kind of breed to saddle up that horse and ride in that environment. And that's why I've loved doing it for most of my career.
So you got to be even like more like MacGyver in that situation because you have to be able to figure out how to do more with less and all like be
Yeah,
very innovative. Okay, that's
that
cool.
is correct.
Now I know like how we measure ourselves in for-profit organizations. That's is it EBITDA or top line revenue and all those things. But how do you measure success in those mission driven organizations? Like what are those big numbers that everybody looks at? What do those look like?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It's not too far off as it
Hmm.
relates to some of those same things, right? So if you're in a mission organization, everyone also wants to know, okay, hey, you know what? How much of every dollar that you either generate or you get goes to your actual, recipients, right? Who's the actual direct service clients? How much actually gets out of the door? And it's a double-edged sword because if you're really good, right? If you're really good, you can have an administrative rate that's really, really low, right? 6, 7%, right? So 93% of everything you get goes straight to your constituent. But there's a dance in that
Mm.
because at the end of the day, there's not enough necessarily, nonprofit public money going around. So folks are going to look for folks to have, the lowest rate as possible. So sometimes, folks will do more than what they should, right? Meaning, they're overworking their teams or they're overworking and stressing their organization to get that rate lower to get the funding. So the funder is pleased because it's like, oh, well, this organization has a really low administrative rate. And then the organization's like, okay, yes, and I can do this and I put this money. But at the same time, you may get into the habit of overtaxing the organization, the staff, and the people, and so it may be unsustainable. So sometimes you will see a cyclical turnaround time with certain kind of organizations being able to hit the ground running, move very fast, move very nimble, really do some really good work. But then there's like almost like this cycle where they burn themselves out, and then you see funders changing their minds about where they want to put money and things of that nature. So it can be sort of tumultuous in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I can imagine you could get into a bit of a death spiral trying to slim down that administrative overhead rate, and then, but at the end of the day, if you were to spend, let's say, 10% of administrative, could you serve better? And the nominal dollars that are going to benefit the people you're trying to benefit is greater, even though you had to 10% off the top versus 6 or 7, right?
Well, what's
That's
interesting
probably
is a lot of these organizations have been rated by official third parties that take a look at their activities and take a look at their outcomes and take a look at their staff and their credentials and their experience. And sometimes they've come back to say, you know what, you do good enough work, you should be charging 15.
Hmm.
15 is a standard, right? So that'll be the stamp. However, you put a 15 next to someone that puts out a 7, back of the envelope math, folks are like, okay, well, why don't we fund the person with 7? In theory, more can go out. So it's a dance. So a lot of those organizations that push themselves could, in theory, ask for more, but by asking for more, you run the danger of getting less. So
Hmm.
again, it's a dance, right? It doesn't really cost X. The funder knows it doesn't really cost X, but they get to, say yes, I'm being efficient by going this way, and you get to say yes by getting the money. But then you start chasing the funding, and
Hmm.
then that becomes your primary business, and all it takes is a change in policy, and you can find yourself, not necessarily being true to your mission, but being true to the funding that you're getting. So it's a very delicate balance.
Wow. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted you to, you've had a really cool history or a really cool path to get you where you are. Tell me about the juvenile justice
Woo!
analytics stuff. I didn't know that about you. We didn't talk about that, but
We didn't
that
talk
sounds
about
really
that.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was a juvenile probation officer. That's how I started my career. All right, so it goes way, way back. I'm in school. I'm taking engineering classes, and while I like the idea of engineering, I just hated my experience. I was just like,
Uh-huh.
this is boring, right? If you gave
Mhm.
a chimp an electronic calculator, he could do what I'm doing. Oh, and by the way, I was working at GTE Data Services at the same time, so I'm actually feeling that at night
Mm.
as I'm going to class during the day. So I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. So I need to do something. My parents were like, hey, yeah, you're just not going to go to school all the time and just hang out. You need to actually get something. So I'm bouncing around. I'm taking different courses like that. And I fell into a criminal investigations elective, took that class, loved it. Loved it. I could not get enough. And I was like, you know what? I think I found my niche, right? So I just went hard into that. Now I'm out and actually working in the field, and I see all the data that they collect and don't do anything with. And
Mm.
one of the things I say is like, guys, and I'll never forget, I'm coming in, there's like a quarterly report due. People have filing cabinets open, papers all over the floor. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? They're like, oh yeah, we've got a report to do. I'm like, what's all this paper all over the floor? They're like, well, we got to get the data. And I'm like, this is not in a database. Wait, I was like, do you know 7-Eleven would come in here and kill every one of you that have this much data on their customers as you have on
Mhm.
this kids? We need to put this somewhere. And so that prompted me to build my first application to track juvenile recidivism and do some predictive analytics regarding, which kids were more likely to show up. And then once I did that and got a taste for leveraging systems, I knew that, you know what, I need to be on the other side of the equation, because once a kid gets there, it's hard to lever resources to turn them around versus preventing them to get there in the first place.
Mhm.
And from there, that's when I sort of took this weird Lando Calrissian path to do every other different kind of job with technology and helping people that kind of brought me to where I am. So to me, it's all been about leveraging technology, doing the same things that everybody else does, but in benefit of people. So beg, borrow, and steal from the big guys and deploy it for the small guys. That's my motto.
So who did you sell out to Darth Vader though to
First of all, Anderson Consulting. I sold them out. I
sold them
sold
out to
them
Darth
out to
Vader?
Vader. Yes. Yes.
All
Yes.
right,
So
all right.
hopefully he had to leave a garrison there. But yes, I sold them out.
Now, did you have a guy that you worked with that had like the little robot ears thing, the bald guy that walked around with you?
Yeah, but yeah, I love
The
that guy,
Lando?
right? So he could take my commands and stuff like that. No, I did
No,
not.
okay.
In fact, I was probably that guy. I mean,
Oh,
you're a young guy coming out of college, thinking you can change the world with technology and things like that, and building systems and showing people what they can do with data. But I think I was probably that guy more than anybody else. So
as a Star Wars fan, I should know the name of that guy. I don't. Anyway.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. So I'm a Star Wars fan too, and I don't know his name. I mean, now granted, I'm more of a Next Generation fan than I am a Star Wars fan, but I play in both camps.
All right. So you learned about using data to really change people's lives and help these kids. And then you're working with the Girl Scouts, impacting their lives. And now I don't want to cut out a bunch of path for you there, but your job now is AI evangelist. And
Isn't that interesting?
that is
Yeah,
interesting. I don't know
yeah.
that I've known anyone else with that title yet. So
Sweet, sweet. Well,
that is cool.
I was hoping I could get, title of AI monk, but yeah, I don't think Arrow or IBM is going to go for that. Of which these are my own express opinions. I must state that these are not those of IBM or Arrow Electronics. But yes, AI evangelist. It's a great role, and that it's interesting, and that I get to wear two hats. So one hat, I am talking to other CIOs, I'm talking to executive teams, and I'm helping, you know, distill the realities of AI from the hype. Where how do
Mm,
you actually talk strategy? How do you actually build it in your workplace? How to be transformative? So that's my one side. But the other hat I get to wear whereas I get to work with, Arrow's partners, IBM's, technical leads, things like that, to say, okay, hey, here's the conversations folks are having, and here's how we need to meet them in the middle. Here's how we can get better at bringing the right technology at the right time, to the marketplace. Because there's a lot of noise in the marketplace. Every single week there's something new. Everybody's promising they can do every single thing. So how do you distill and cut through that to be relevant to not only your existing clients, but potential future pipeline and future customers as well. So those are two places I get to play in this particular role.
So you're kind of sharing with people and helping kind of evangelize the kind of that art of the possible type of stuff, but while also kind of having your ear to the ground, hearing from the market, hearing the conversations and being out there with the folks. Okay. So you're kind of
Yeah,
half reconnaissance and,
right,
okay. Very
right.
nice.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's pretty cool.
what are the conversations, kind of what are those conversations looking like these days? I mean, I'm sure it changes every
Sure.
week for you, but what are you hearing about these days? What's the word on the
So I think,
street,
all
so
right.
to
So like
speak?
the word on the street, right? So I think for the past, month or so, there's just been a lot of what I like to call hamster energy, right? A lot of frenetic energy about, the various reports saying that, enterprise AI initiatives don't necessarily return
Mm,
true business value, right? There's the MIT NANDA report that said 95% of enterprise POCs don't return business value, things like that. Now, as a CIO, right, these are things that I know. These are things, it was no surprise to me that someone came out a report and said, hey, guess what? The latest car in the hype train is not delivering on all the promises that the hype train said it would. I was like, yeah, I know. It never does. That's why
I'll
it's
be
called
darned.
hype, right?
Yeah.
Remember low code, no code, edge computer. It's the same thing, right? Blockchain, it's the
Hmm.
same exact thing. That train's never late. But I think with AI, because people have seen such a monumental shift at the individual contributor level with employees or consumer AI, they assume that that would show up the exact same way within the business landscape, and it's not. So the conversations I'm hearing now is like, okay, how do we get back to what we know works as CIOs, right? Whether it's the frameworks related to how you develop software or how you prove business value or how you track expenses, and how do we get back to some of the basics so we can put a bridle on this thing before things run away, because the various vendors and their solutions aren't necessarily giving people those frameworks to say, hey, here's how you approach this wisely,
Mm.
because AI can be very expensive to implement, but it can even be more expensive if you let it run away, and suddenly you've got compute and inference costs that you weren't expecting, and suddenly you're spending a whole lot more money and getting way less in return. So that's the part of the conversations that have really been sort of popping up the last month, I would say.
Yeah, I think the market seems like they've drawn a line in the sand on okay, we're letting all these vendor companies play with AI on our dollar. Let's stop doing that now. let's
Right.
let's
Yeah.
maybe deliver some real business value and start trying to measure, are we really doing something good? And I'm with
Yeah.
you. I don't find it weird that, what did they say? Was it 95% of all the AI things are
Yeah.
not, but
Right.
like, how many IT projects fail? I mean, what did you
Right.
expect?
Well, exactly, exactly. And here's the thing, right? Because there's an old adage, Thomas Edison said, why, he in theory was inventing the light bulb, which I think people are now saying, that may or may not be true. You might have copied someone's homework over there, right? But the whole thing about, yeah, I didn't fail, 1,000 times. I figured out, 900 ways, not to make it, or something
Right.
like that. And I
Yeah,
think
that didn't
that,
work. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think that goes with technology. And I would say, a good tech leader should never be moving or leading from tech anyway, right? It is really about, hey, what is the business problem or the business need or the customer need I'm trying to solve? And tech is a force multiplier. It's an enabler of the solution, but it is not necessarily the solution. And I think if you let your eye get off of that, then yeah, you could find yourself in a situation where you're trying to justify all this money because it sounded cool, but it's not changing the day-to-day landscape of your customers or the staff that are working with you.
Hmm. Yeah, I it has definitely seemed like over the past quarter or so that things are starting to get a little more reasonable
I
around
hope so.
AI, and
I
the
hope so.
conversations that I'm hearing are changing. And well, I think we talked about it at that conference we were at, like the kind of that first principles level thinking. We're getting back to that again, and we're like, okay,
Yeah. I mean, and it's served us well in the past when we've had other technology disruptions, right? Like the cloud, right? Everybody's running. Oh, we got to, I remember back, U.S. Air Magazine days, right? People were like, hey, Mike, can you tell me how we should be getting into the cloud? And I would tell my leaders, just calm down. We're already there.
yeah.
you know, it's yeah, it's and what's next and what's next. But yeah, no, I do think getting back to the basics, right? Frameworks, not fads. That's what I hear CIOs, asking for help and defining for their organizations and their strategies.
And, I think I don't know, it seems like there's been a bit of a shift also kind of away from like that hard side of this. Like everybody was for a long time very much focused on the technology. Like, oh, here's how you train models, and here you need this data, and you got to
Mhm.
label the data, and ML ops and all these things.
Right.
But it feels like that we're kind of shifting the conversation a little bit to kind of that squishy side, the softer side of the
Yeah.
AI, where
Yeah.
we're back to thinking about human beings again.
That is
I'll be
correct.
darned. Yeah. So,
Yeah. No,
how's your
you're exactly
experience in
right.
there? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. Because, first of all, if you think about the data that these models were trained on, right? 99% of the public information has probably been indexed and searched and been, flattened, so these models can absorb it, right? Whether
Hmm.
or not folks had the permissions from the individual contributors before they trained their models on it. I said it. I told you
Yep.
I was Gen
Yep.
X. I
Hmm.
said it.
That's right.
Whether or not they had permission, they did it. But we also know that in an enterprise, public model doesn't really help you much, right? It's that narrow institutionalized data within your confines that's actually useful. And that's
Hmm.
where you kind of see this gap. And then when people want to start talking about transparency and want to start talking about trust and want to start about talking about guidance and human intervention and double checking, well, those are human elements. Those are not technological 100%. And it really comes down to, and I say this all the time, folks want trust, in their AI systems. And I'll ask the pointed question, do your staff have trust in you
Uh,
as a leader? And if they don't have trust in you as a leader, you can bring in the best AI systems in the world. They're not going to trust it. And why don't they trust it? Have you been trustworthy? Again, it's one of the simplest things, probably the thing that's hardest to do. And I think as leaders, that's the piece we need to remember in this new quote unquote agentic age, because the technology and the movement is not going to slow down, right? Staff are going to bring it into your organization, your kids are going to be bringing it into your house, and there's going to be this expectation that we're going to be able to meet them. But at the end of the day, if we want resilient systems, we need to have resilient people. If we want trustworthy systems, we need to have trustworthy people. And again, like I said, at the Cincinnati conference, right? I love humanity. I love it. And we are very good at figuring out who we trust and who we don't, very
Hmm.
fast.
Sure.
And I think, as leaders, we don't often get a chance to slow down and say, okay, how do I approach this purposefully so I can make sure that my staff, my organization, and my customers have systems that serve them um, in a trustworthy fashion.
You hear this, and I'm sure you probably hear this a lot. You're out on the road talking about AI with folks. This notion that like kind of AI is this amplification mechanism, and some people phrase it as it just makes you be able to do dumb things faster. That kind of that the gist.
Mhm.
But
Yes,
do you think that organizationally that AI, is it going to have the effect of kind of highlighting where those deficiencies are, where the low trust areas are? Is it going to be that kind of thing where it's amplifying those sort of lower trust environments and making them worse?
it could be. It could be, but again, it's not the technology, right? It's the
Hmm.
it's the people using it. Now, you've also heard the adage of when 2022, right? And everyone gets shocked. And ChatGPT comes out, and everyone's sort of amazed by this, and then they're scared at the same time. And
Hmm.
then the statement you often repeated was, oh well, AI is not going to take your job. The person who uses AI is going to take it, right? And I'm like,
Right.
okay, that's a half truth. That's a half truth, because at the end of the day, depending on your leadership, depending on your environment, yes, automation will take your job, depending on what your job is. Um, and that's just the truth. And I think, in these particular environments, because I used to always make the joke when people are like, okay, hey, you've got this title, of Chief Information and Transformation Officer. What does that mean? I'm like, oh, I help you use technology to make bad decisions faster, right? That'd be the joke that I would sometimes say that, my elevator speech, people would laugh at it. I'm like, but seriously, how quickly are you moving? And I think, again, it can be that enabler. It can be that force multiplier if we purposely choose it to be so. If we are in a race to the bottom and trying to automate everything that's definable and automatable, then what's left? And I think that's the question that a lot of people have on the table, because in the past, that question mark regarding what's left has kind of been the ambiguity, within a person's job responsibility, and they would just assume to take this, and that's the thing that made them valuable. If that goes away, right, or if that thing is highly faulty to begin with,
Hmm.
where do we put our focus? And I think as leaders, that's a conversation we need to be willing to have. It's sticky, it's uncomfortable sometimes to have that, but it's where we need to go.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really uncomfortable conversations around AI going on right now that kind of people
Yeah.
are talking about in the corners at parties, and we're not saying out loud. But like,
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah, I
there's
mean,
so there's listen. There's a lot of uncomfortable products in AI that I see coming out that I'm like, okay, so yeah, all right. So this is that. So all right. So for those in the audience that haven't heard me say it, right? One of the things I said at the Cincinnati event is that I was a tech optimist. I love humanity, and that the thing I love most about the humanity is that unless it's against the laws of physics, people can get it done,
hmm,
right?
yeah,
People can get it done no matter what it is if it's not impossible from a physics standpoint, mankind can do it. And the quote that I use is one by Jim Lovell, where he says, "Hey, we live in an age where man has walked on the moon, right? It wasn't a miracle. We just decided to go, right? So
hmm,
humans said, you know what? I want to go there, the place where generations ago people used to worship as a god. I want to go walk there, and we did it. It took
hmm,
work, but we did it, right? So the things that are problems around us today that seem endemic, seem impossible, when you take a look from that perspective, they really aren't. We could do something because it's not against the laws of physics. But at the same time, the other part of that conversation that I opened up the Cincinnati CIO forum with was that I recognize that, unfortunately, even though we usually get to the good spot, we go through it we sometimes go there with a bunch of unnecessary suffering and pain along the way before we decide to do the right thing.
hmm, yep,
And I see that happening with some of the AI products and tools as well, things that we know are going to be harmful, things that we know are not going to be of benefit, but they are of profit being pushed out anyway. And that's concerning because we know what will show up later that we'll have to deal with. And prior to 2022, parents were concerned about the effects of screen times on their kids and solitary behavior and things of that nature,
Hmm.
right? We knew these things were coming along, and now we've got psychologists and we've got PET scans of people's brains about how they're engaging with these tools and what it's doing to their ability to be creative and to problem solve and things like that. And again, the technology by itself is not going to necessarily slow down. So it's going to be us as leaders, us as people, to put our hand on that brake and force this to slow before we, all end up with, I don't know, I guess the equivalent would be secondhand smoke damage in this day, secondhand AI damage or something. I don't know. But I mean, we definitely shouldn't forget our duties and responsibilities with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, the the notion, like, I know a lot of folks. I kind of had this conversation with people, here and there on the podcast, but like early on, it seems like people are going to be quick to pull that layoff lever, the big L, right? The big L word. Whoa, you mean we can get this done with less people? Why don't we get rid of some people? What are you seeing? I think that was an early reaction, and people were kind of, but I think people are kind of tempered that, and they're seeing that maybe we can get more things done. Like we were kind of we had a normal, and we could get so many things done per sprint, or so many things done per quarter, or whatever you want to say. So we had this kind of velocity, and it was almost like this cap that we could get things done. With AI, that raises the bar for the number of things we could get done. Now we could just choose, well, we'll just keep doing the same number of things we've always done. We'll just use less people. Yeah, you could do that, but why not raise that bar? And then maybe we can tackle some of those big issues, those big
Listen,
ticket items that these organizations have been kicking the can down the road,
you're right. You're right. That's something that could happen. The question is, will it? The answer is, I don't know. Because again, even when we were making the joke before about blockchain and edge computing and
Mm-hmm.
no code, low code, right? Even way back then, folks were saying that, these automation technologies were going to save the average person 40% time during their work week. Well, that's 2 days when
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, right? No one's
Yeah.
working a 3-day work week. So the expectation of what you could get done just rose with your ability to get things done. And I think, again, in a multi-agentic system where productivity uh, literally will not be able to be measured in the same ways, how you determine value is going to be
Mm-hmm.
different. And so, yes, there are going to be organizations that use this as an excuse to slash, and they're and here's and they're incentivized to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Salesforce makes the statement, oh hey, I can lay off 4,000 or X thousand of text because I have AI bots that can handle it, they weren't necessarily penalized at the market because of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Amazon says, "Hey, I can lay off so many, workers at a robot at a warehouse because I can leverage robotics to do." They're not penalized at the stock market for that. Now, where they get penalized, right, is by the human people who are like, okay, well, you know what, I'm not going to shop here, or I'm not going to buy this, or I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
do this. And the people are like, okay, well, what's my approach to doing this, and a balance and an ethical framework. And I think that's going to be that messy middle that companies as well as us as consumers will have to play in, because there aren't any universal frameworks. We are all learning about this as we go along, and who knows what happens next week, right? Do we have the next deep seat coming out in 2 weeks that no one's heard of, that's going to shock the world and change and turn this whole thing upside down? Who knows, right? I mean, we don't really know that piece.
Now, to be fair, Amazon, they could have taken a hit in their stock, but that $38 billion deal they just signed for with OpenAI might have, like, you know what I mean, like that we muddied the water there. We might
Yeah,
not
and
have
then we've
seen the
got
signal.
that, and then we've got that, right? The you've seen the reports about the money flowing from one person to it's funny because like I told you, I got my start in criminal justice, and drug dealers do the same thing. It's called stepping on your product, right? You step on it to inflate it. So I'm going to buy $100 million chips from you. You're going to invest 100 million, right? It's a bubble, right?
Hmm.
And doing that. So I mean, again, not to you know wax messianically about some of these things, but I just think that again, as leaders as organizations, there's an opportunity for us here, and I hope that some will slow down and take advantage of it. But I also know that not all will.
Yeah. Now, one thing I had another gentleman on, we talked kind of about like within my organization, I'm kind of the AI guy, right? Like it's kind of part of
Hmm.
my job and my
Hmm.
identity within the organization. You're obviously an AI guy within your job. With your job, you're an AI evangelist. How have how has it been for you to keep track of all this? I mean, you know, you hear about this AI slop and all of the stuff that's going on right now. How do you sift through all this madness? And as you said, things are changing. Next week, we could just be completely upended and everything
Right.
changes. Like how has that been for you? And how do you keep yourself sane in this world when this is your job, you know, day to
Well,
day?
yeah, it's interesting you say that, right? Because because you're a CTO and I'm a former CIO, and we all have the sort of same ethos, right? We know that this is a crazy rodeo that
Hmm.
we work in, and yet we ride that horse anyway. It takes a certain type of person to saddle up, knowing that what everything you listen. I tell people all the time, especially kids in school, whatever. If I'm talking to a college class or lecture, I was like, what the best compliment you're going to get working in IT is, and they're like, what? Silence.
Mm.
When no one says anything to you at all, that's the best compliment you'll ever receive. And people are like, well, that sounds terrible. Yes. Welcome. Welcome, right? So the kind of person that can operate and succeed and thrive in that environment where the only thing you hear is complaints, yeah, you're kind of used to riding that wave. So you do your best as far as trying to distill, okay, what's the next and best thing that's going up? Where are all the white papers? Who's talking about what? Who's releasing things? It's funny, getting to play with AI and being able to do like, workshops and different things. I've taught different groups about how to create their own agents that will actually do some of this work for you to distill some of this stuff. And with some of the technologies that's on hand, you know, it helps in trying to sift through all of the madness that's going on because, yeah, it can just be a constant churn regarding what's actually relevant versus what's not.
Yeah, I've found, to borrow I'll use an analogy from machine learning. I've found that like as I'm studying and learning, you know, if you try to like, you know, if you set your alpha, your learning rate to be very, very minimal, if you
Hmm.
say, okay, I'm going to learn for 5 minutes and then look around and say, okay, what's new? And then learn for like, you can't really learn everything. It's like you have to
Mm.
kind of like just
Yeah,
just shut the windows and you can
right,
get your blinders on and say, okay, I'm going to
right.
dig deep into this topic
Right.
for
That's
give
that
me a
friction
couple
we
of
talked about.
weeks.
That's that friction we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
that struggle, right? And I
Hmm.
think, with some of these things and with us seeing, this, trough of disillusionment show up
Hmm.
with generative AI and going back to the basics, I think part of that is going to be required for leaders as well. Sticking to some of the things that that work versus trying to respond and, to every single thing that's novelty. Because, you're using this tool for novelty and you're using this tool for novelty and you're using this tool for novelty. Guess what? It's not novelty.
Hmm.
They're all
Yeah.
regurgitating the exact same thing the exact same way, right? Novelty is a thing that comes through work, comes through effort, comes through some friction, things of that nature. And I think we need to keep our value on that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to stick with something for a little bit or else it's just maddening, you know,
It
and
is.
it's that buyer's remorse kind of thing, that notion. It's just,
Right,
yeah, it just
right.
eats you up. But so, yeah.
Yeah, you got well, but it's profitable. I said it. I said it again. I
Yeah.
know. I know. It's profitable though. It's
There's lots
profitable.
of people making money on it. Talking about all the AI goodness. Yeah.
There we go. Exactly. Let's go. I don't know what version of iPhone's out now, but I know it's the exact same thing it was 3 years ago.
Easy now. I've got Apple stock.
Oh, all right. I take that back.
Yeah, let them buy them. Let them buy them. Yeah, I did get one of the new ones because I'm on a. My wife and I agreed like we'll do like every other year. We were buying them at the same time together. Like, oh, cool, we get new iPhones. But man, they just got too doggone expensive. So
Yeah. Well,
that
it's funny you say that because I used to, so, I'm an Android guy, so I'll put that out there. So yes, not only Gen Xer, but hardcore
mm,
Android technologist. So my entire household's Android. So we used to do every 2 years. But I can't remember was it the S20, S20? I can't remember one, but there was one where it got to, I was like, okay, I don't need to upgrade anymore. This thing
mm,
still does everything I needed to do. What am I getting with a new one? So I just kind of stayed. And it's like now I'm actually, thinking about doing it. But now the old man in me is coming out because it's like, well, I want one with be able to put in my own SIM card. And I want to be able to do such and such. And I don't want to use this stuff, So now I got to go to, off brand models like CF or whatever to get the new phones, whatever, because the popular ones are no longer doing it for me.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
There we
But
go.
the cameras only need to have so many megapixels. Like all I'm
Right.
doing now is like you can see my wrinkles more clearly when I take pictures. Like I don't need all that, you know?
Yeah, and listen, and I'm not like my kids. I'm not like some of my friends, whatever. I don't take pictures of everything. At some point, I'm like, I don't feel like pulling my phone out of my pocket. What is it?
Yeah.
Yes, I see it.
I want some silence. Yeah, like you said, let's get some of that blessed silence that we never get to hear.
Got it. Got it. All right. We're all right. So we're letting our old guys. We're letting
Yeah.
our old guys spill out. All right.
Get
All
off
right.
my
All right. We'll rein it
lawn.
in. We'll rein it in.
What about governance in this world? How are
Oh.
those conversations going with folks
So
as you're
yes.
speaking to leaders and
Yeah. Yeah. No,
are they
that's it.
struggling? What's going on
Some
there?
are struggling, right? Because I think for some organizations, to tell the truth, right? For some organizations, governance has been a periodic exercise, right? It's
Hmm.
something that you pull out, whether it's on a quarterly basis or whether your cyber calls you to do it on a particular cadence. You pulled it out then, and usually governance has been the stick that we've either tried to beat employees or departments with to say, hey, don't do this because this is against this particular set of compliance. But that's not what governance should be, and nor will it be able to be that in an agentic work environment, particularly if you're going to have multi-agentic systems as well. The metaphor, the analogy that I like to use when I talk to leaders about governance is, it comes from F1, Formula One racing. So,
Mm.
I've recently got back into watching Formula One. I call myself a recovering Lewis Hamilton fan. But the thing about Formula One is the key to winning a Formula One race is not your engine. While you do need it, right? Anybody can drive fast on a straight. The key to winning in Formula One are your brakes, because your brakes allow you to slow down just enough to maintain your speed into a corner and then position yourself to accelerate out of it. And that's what governance needs to be. It needs to be part of your process where you've defined as a business, as an organization, right? If you got regulatory compliance perspectives you need to keep in mind, but you've already designed what those boundaries are. So your compliance is good enough to keep you right along that edge so that you can accelerate coming out of it. It's not about
Hmm.
speeding the brakes, because in multi-agentic systems, that really have the ability, right, not only to talk to other agents, but call tool systems or whatever, they're going to be able to operate and do work much quicker than you'd ever
Mm.
be able to hand check it all. So
Hmm.
you've got to have governance baked in. You've got to have these things already defined before you start playing and turning these things loose. Because once they're loose, again, it's that part of humanity that I love, but I also have to recognize people like easy. And in the beginning, yeah, they're going to like, I want human in the loop for every decision. I'm like, okay, all right, you will, until that becomes cumbersome.
Hmm.
And then it'll be, I want human in the loop for every decision above this threshold, until that becomes cumbersome. And then at some point, someone's going to say, you know what, it's good enough. Well, do you have the governance behind that good enough? Particularly if it's going to impact someone's finances or health outcomes, or
Hmm.
build it now, because once those things are in place, it's hard to add it in there um, over the top. So that's the conversations that we're having with governance, that it's part of your strategy. It's not something that you come at afterward trying to stop things from moving.
Yeah, they don't usually put brakes on the Formula One cars while they're going around the track.
No, and the interesting thing about the Formula One brakes is when those cars stop, right? They've got to bring out battery powered. They almost look like custom made leaf blowers to continue to blow air over these things, because they get to like 1,000 degrees,
Whoa.
but there's no airflow flowing over it, so you don't want these things to melt or transfer heat and hurt the driver. So
Hmm.
if the machine stops, you've got other things in place to take over. Otherwise, those systems can then cause you a problem someplace else. So it's not too dissimilar in an agentic environment where you got systems playing with systems playing with systems. You have to have your eye on the overarching goal and make sure that you've got things that work by design. Otherwise, you're going to be, if you think you're putting out fires now as a technologist, just wait till you have agents running loose in your organization. You'll really be putting out fires.
Yeah, that aren't checking in with you. Are you sure this is okay, boss?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You
yeah,
don't even know. And if
yeah.
you don't have the governance set up, your people can listen. That's a, you know, when I was a nonprofit CIO, we were working with Microsoft, and when they first rolled out Copilot, you had the ability to turn it off, where it didn't show up in your environment until you were ready. And then at one point, you're like, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. Everybody gets it. So you don't know what's coming next as far as someone being able to deploy something that you don't know of. So you need to have that orchestration, you need to have that governance built in so you can keep an eye on that stuff before it goes haywire.
I did not know that brakes is what wins races in Formula One. I didn't
Brakes,
know that.
brakes is the key to winning an F1 race.
Now,
Yeah.
see what we learned from Days of Thunder, the movie, the
That's that.
fabulous movie with Tom Cruise,
That's
is
right. Right. Cold trickle.
tires is what
Tires
wins a race.
race. Right.
Yeah.
Tires is what wins a race, Cole. Exactly.
You even know it's Cole. All right, there you
Right.
go.
He didn't hit you. He rubs you. And
That's
rubbing
right.
son is racing.
Rubbin is racing. I love when he says, he tells him to hit the pace car. Like, what?
Right.
You've
Because
hit
if you hit
every other
anything else
thing out
out
there.
there, you better be perfect.
I want you to be perfect. Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm so glad you got
Robert,
that reference.
listen, Robert Duvall, that is great.
He
Now
was
the
awesome.
rumor. Now, you saw the new F1 film, right?
I
The
have
recent
not
one with
seen it
Brad.
yet. I've heard it's amazing, but
It's
yeah.
amazing, and some of so I believe they're trying to work up one in pre-production, and some of the hope is, could we have Brad Pitt, and can we have Tom Cruise in a movie again, and one playing Cold Trickle and one playing Sonny, and see what they do together? That's like, that'd be the ultimate Gen Xer's dream, to see those two characters in a film together.
Man, that'd be great if we can get Robert Duvall involved in that. I use that line when he tries to go recruit him to come be his mechanic, and he's like,
Right.
well, you can train him how to be a race car driver. He's like, no. See that
No,
coon
see, that's
hound laying out? That's the best coon hound I ever heard of, and I didn't have to
right.
teach him a
Teach him a
darn thing,
damn
right?
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I use that line all the time. Like, some people just have it, or they
Some
don't.
people just have it. Yeah, no, it can be a gift. It can be a gift. Oh,
Man,
yes, and we're getting details from our engineer that Robert Duvall is 94. So
he's 94, so we better hurry up and make this movie.
exactly, if it's not been made already, because we
Yeah,
need
but
this.
maybe they've already done it. Hopefully, we pray that that's
Exactly.
what's happening.
I hope so.
Okay. Well, we're gonna transition ourselves into the next segment of our show. Our next segment of the show is called Ship It or Skip It.
Ship or skip, ship or skip. Everybody, we gotta tell us if you ship or skip.
And the idea here is, I bring up a topic and you kind of say,
Okay.
yeah, I like that idea. That's good. Ship it. Or no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Skip it. I'm not going to skip it.
Gotcha.
So what about this notion of, like, you kind of hear people talking about, we've already kind of figured out how to have like AI co-pilots for software engineers. What about AI co-pilots for everyone in an organization? Everything, every role, shop floor, cashiers, like everyone. Like, what do you think about that idea? You think that's got some legs or not?
It's coming. I think it's coming. I think people are already using these things for all kinds of tools and all kinds of use cases. It's interesting. I knew of an organization that rolled out a chat bot related to customer service. And it was so good at having conversations that people started reporting cases of self-harm with this tool, because it
No
would
way.
listen.
Oh,
They
okay.
hold a conversation with you, and people felt comfortable. So people are going to be using these things for lots of. I mean, I think there was a report that OpenAI released recently about the number of people that are using their tool for medical advice, even though they particularly say not to do it. So I do see, folks leveraging these tools for all kinds of things because it makes it easier. Whether or not it's better, again, that's a different conversation. But I see it happening.
So you're a ship it, like we should be doing that, or you're a skip it, like maybe
I
that's
mean,
not
to
the
me,
greatest
oh,
idea.
gotcha. All right, yeah. So to me, I think that's a skip it, because I don't think you should necessarily use it for every. So here's and I love this quote. You get into an argument with your wife, right? And she's upset, you're you're upset. You come back later and you're like, sweetie, I just want to take a minute to tell you I'm really sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I should have been more mindful of how you felt. I'm sorry. Can we do such and such, right? How's she going to feel? Well, she's probably going to say, you know what? I feel heard. You've done this for me. Thank you. And it's like, what prompted you? Oh, I went and used ChatGPT and asked what I should say. It would invalidate everything you just said.
True, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think in certain situations we need to be mindful if we want this to be honest and genuine, then what? We need to let, our human roughness show.
Mm.
We need to let some of that come through. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. That's what makes it, that's what makes a Ming vase a Ming vase, not because it's stamped perfect like a machine could do, but there's imperfections in it because a human did it. And I think, in certain areas we need to hold to that. So no, I am a skip it on using Copilot and everything.
You telling me in the chat you can help me get out of an argument with my wife?
Listen, we're old
Is that
enough
what
to
you're
know
saying?
that the way to win an argument is not to be in it in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, I've been doing it wrong. See, this computer here told me I need to be more human, and here's how to do it.
Yeah. Don't say that piece. Don't say that piece.
All right. Again, there's like a moratorium on laws around AI, regulatory moratorium on AI. Is that a good idea? Should we be doing that right now, or is that a bad idea?
Putting a moratorium on regulations and having conversations about regulating AI, no, that is a bad idea, because who's going to do that? The only potential saving graces is that the moratorium that folks are saying aren't going to stop the lawsuits. So the lawsuits might force people to come at the appropriate guidelines and the transparency regarding decisions and being able to have explainability in their systems and things of that nature, because the lawsuits aren't going to stop just because, there's a moratorium on standing up any kind of safeguards or regulations around this. So while I think it is not a good thing not to have those conversations, again, the punitive things are going to force us to address it sooner or later.
Yeah, I think on those things, it's tough, because it's like you don't want to stifle, right? You don't want to do too much regulation to stifle. But yes, you're right. There's going to be, as you said, we find new and interesting ways to, pull the wool over someone's eyes, and
Right.
those sort of things. So, there's a balance. Maybe there's a period of time that's okay to kind of leave the gloves off. But at a certain point, like we got to start thinking about, okay, how do we make sense of all of this and make sure that we can all, coexist with this stuff. Okay.
Exactly.
So forever we heard about shadow IT, and now you're hearing a lot about shadow AI. Is shadow AI a good thing, or can it be a good thing, or is it like, no, snuff it out, rip it out at its roots? Like, what do you think?
Right. Well, listen, being a CIO, I've long held the view that shadow IT was inevitable. It's like weeds in your garden, right? You're constantly pruning. You're never going to get to a situation where you're going to be able to pull them out, because what we often call our weeds are the indigenous plants that are better suited for your environment than what you actually planted.
Great
and
analogy.
Sometimes the applications in our environment the exact same way. They're artificial. We've decided this because, I don't know, maybe they met our RFP quotient, or they gave us a good rate or for license renewals and things of that nature. But what our staff really wanted was something else. And that's the weeds, the shadow IT that we're pulling out. I think shadow AI, when it shows up, can be an opportunity for tech leaders to find out, okay, well, what's not being addressed by the tool sets that we currently have, or by the workflows that we're holding to, that this is pointing to a different way of doing something, and being open to have that. I think, leaving AI just within the realms of IT is a bad decision. I think it should be cross collaborative across the business, with IT, of course, having a seat at the table, because the data and the security and things like that have traditionally been in our hands. And as APIs of the organization, we see where all the information flows, but we should not be the sole dictator of what it looks like. And I think sometimes shadow AI happens because people are sneaking in things to make their work easier than what they currently have on deck. So I think it's an opportunity. I don't think you're going to be able to rip it out by the roots entirely, because it can come in so easily. I tell leaders all the time, if you think you've got your organization buttoned up, give me 15 minutes and I will show you how your staff are sneaking it in without you knowing about it. Because it doesn't have to be on your system for it to be in your environment, right? It's on your staff person's phones. It's on their Meta integrated Ray-Ban glasses that they just walk through the front door in, and are taking screenshots and videos of everything happening in your. It's already there. So the question is, why is it there? What's it doing? What can you provide that's equivalent or better that allows you to keep, your precious assets, your data, your customer information, things like that, secure, and address, again, the human side of that element, right? Your staff's needs to get their work done.
Yeah. I mean, I think barring any sort of like regulatory or anything like that, we've always said like shadow IT or shadow AI is kind of, that's usually showing that's a failure of IT. And the way we typically have seen organizations will address it is like they try to just bring that hammer down, that hammer of just, you're not supposed to use this, but they should look at it differently. Just like you're saying, how they use like Dr. Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, where he said nature finds a way. Like that's what's going on here. The business is finding a way to get its job done easier. They're innovating. This is innovation. Whether you don't have to be a computer scientist to innovate. They're innovating and figuring out a way to make their own lives better. dig in, look into what they're seeing. You're like, oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that was even a pain point for you guys.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think we
exactly. And I think,
look at.
if we want, life to find a way, we need to be in there with the businesses as well as tech
Mm,
leaders. And I
mm-hmm,
think for some organizations, the tech team and leadership and structure isn't about innovation. It's about keeping the lights on, keeping things stable, and keeping costs low. Well,
mm-hmm,
innovation is disruptive. It,
mm-hmm.
it, it tears things up when it first shows up. If you think about all the things that came, or you think about when cloud showed up and everybody had their colos and everything was working fine or whatever, and suddenly it was like, wait a minute, I'm just going to move to give my stuff to Microsoft. What
Yeah.
about all these servers I just bought that I was, that I was expensing and writing down and changing my balance sheet? Those are going to go away. I'm not going to have any capex anymore. I'm not going to be able to, make the books look good by depreciating this stuff. I'm just all going to be operating again, disruptive. And I think AI is proven the exact same way. So it's an opportunity for those organizations if they want to really be thought partners and process partners to kind of go take a look at it, join at the table. Hey, where can we use this? Where can we let this go? Where it's safe to have a POC or, an idea related to the technology and see if it can ripple out from there.
Yeah, it's funny that, again, we're back to like these concepts keep coming up. I mean, we at least reuse the word shadow to name
There
it.
we
You know what I
go.
mean? We at least reuse that. But can we call it something different that we don't have to like, number one, shadow sounds kind of nefarious, right? Like,
Right.
can we call it what it
Bootstrap
is? Yeah.
AI.
Like, yeah, let's embrace it. It is
Right.
innovation. People are
Right.
trying to find a way to
The
make their
people's
lives better.
right. The
We should lean
people's
into it.
AI. That's what it
Yes.
is. The
And
people's
it's going to be
platform.
shadow quantum, next, right?
Oh my, woo.
Forget that stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
well, the thing about, quantum's still very, very, very expensive right
mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah,
So your staff
yeah,
aren't sneaking that in. But
yeah,
yeah, once they
right.
start leasing time on those qubits or whatever, then maybe we'll see some stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think GTA 6 will be out before quantum
let's hope
comes in
so.
your
Let's hope so.
organization.
All right, so that was ship it or skip it.
Yeah.
So now
I'm surprised you didn't bring up vibe coding.
but you know what? That's our warm up question. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
We'll do vibe coding. What do you got?
Okay.
Vibe coding.
Skip.
Skip it.
Vibe coding, I tell people all the time, vibe coding is not coding, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
don't know how programming works, just because an IDE tool decided for you to use these libraries and stuff, you cannot call yourself a coder. No, you're not a coder until you have a stack of O'Reilly books to whatever language it is that you're going to that you can pull off your shelf and you can understand it. If you do not have that, you are not a coder. And yes, Copilot for GitHub counts too. No, skip it.
If you haven't learned the animal kingdom because of the things on the front of your O'Reilly books, you're not a coder, darn it.
You're not a coder. Exactly.
I still like what was that one Linux for with that
Oh,
animal with the
yeah,
big
with like
eyes? Yeah,
the little meerkat looking thing or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
that's a trip. All right, yeah, bring up the O'Reilly books. That's a rite of
Exactly.
passage, isn't it?
It is a rite of passage. Yes. Yes.
All right. So that was ship it or skip it. So we've talked about a lot of different stuff. What
Yeah.
are you seeing as what is the future? Where do we go from here after all we talked about? What are you seeing in the next 6, 9, 12, 18 months? What do you envision?
You know what? I'm seeing, organizations that have the ability, right? Because, different organizations have different maturity levels. But, all signs are pointing to agentic, and I could see people almost having a subscription-based model to intelligence.
Yeah.
At some point, right? Just like we have subscription-based models to compute and cloud storage or whatever. I think we're going to get to a point where we're going to be able to see that, and whether it's you or the company that provides your SaaS product, them sort of just tying in, via their API or whatever connectors to sort of like a generalized. And I'm calling it intelligence, not necessarily being human intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the term I'm putting to it, to really leverage some of these pieces because there's a need for it, but not every organization has the chops internally to set that up. And I think that's going to be a piece that, our hyperscalers are going to be able to provide customers to help them move along this journey. I definitely see that piece. And I also see, hybrid becoming du jour more as well, because again, the internet's already been boiled by these large models for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Your own internal data is going to be the key linchpin. And that's currently either on-prem or in emails or in share, you know what I'm saying? All these
Uh-huh.
different kind of things. And I think that hybrid approach, leveraging the best of a small model internally, the big one for natural language stuff or whatever, is probably going to be how people stitch this together to push into the sort of next phase for AI development for us.
Yeah, I all along it's kind of been like the writing's been on the wall because you can only get so much more out of like the billions and billions and billions of parameters on these big models. At a
Right.
certain point, it's more effective, more efficient to have smaller models that are purpose built for a certain domain or task,
Definitely.
or you and that, I think
And
they
they're
call that
cheaper
was
too.
yeah, like the what is it, the mixture of experts. The
Yep.
inference is cheaper, it's cheaper to train, it's cheaper to retrain, like
Right.
that's where it's got to go there. Now, granted, for the planning and kind of general purpose, as you said, you can have the big brain, big model, and then it's going to task out to all the small. I think that we're going to see that mixture of experts being employed more and more in the future.
Correct. Definitely.
All right, our next segment of the show. So
All
this
right.
is we've done the warm up. We've gone through the motions of just talking about the things we have to talk about because we're a tech podcast. We got to talk about AI. But now we're getting into the real meat of the conversation. And I was, the last guest I was explaining, like most guests or most of our listeners, they'll just fast forward through the stuff we just talked. They want to get to this lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire, don't slow down. Answer quick and make it count. In this game, there's no way out. It's time for the lightning round.
The lightning round is the segment of the show that people tune in for, and this is what they want to hear.
Okay.
Again, I don't have any data to back that up. I don't. I
Oh,
just,
okay. Well, that's good.
I'm making it up. Yeah.
Gut
So
works.
this is quick fire. Ask
Okay.
any questions, but we do have a scoring mechanism. It's that we actually do rent a quantum computer because the algorithm is so complex that we need to use
Great.
Shore's algorithm to do
Okay.
the scoring. There's a lot that goes into it. I don't want to bore you with the details.
Appreciate that. Just make sure it's IBM's quantum and we're good to go.
Well, absolutely. And
I got
you'll
to kick
understand.
braces.
Yeah, you'll understand once we get into the questions, you'll understand why we need such a complex algorithm for it. Okay.
All right, let's go.
Are you mentally prepared?
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, nobody knows. Number 1. Super Mario Brothers or Zelda?
Super Mario.
If you could push a button to make everyone in the world 7% happier, but it would also place a worldwide ban on all hairstyling products, would you push it?
You say the guy who has his hair cut down really low? Yes, I would push that.
I would too. Yeah, that's a selfish thing, though. I don't have hair to worry about.
Right. Exactly.
Now, I'll do this because it's topical. Are you a no shave November kind of guy? Do you engage in that activity? Do you grow your beard out and make your wife upset for a month and then shave it into December?
Yeah. No, I am not part of the no shave or no anything else November. So whatever I was doing the other 11 months of the year, I do it through November
keep
as
doing
well.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Just another month. Yep.
Just another
That makes
month
sense.
for me. Yeah.
What size bed do you typically prefer?
Queen
size bed. And now is that in your home or when you travel or both?
when I travel.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a queen.
Yeah. I feel like I'm lost in the.
Yeah. It's too much space. Don't need it.
Did you ever believe in Santa Claus?
No, never. Because I
Never.
could see all of the commercials about stuff going on sale and my parents going out and buying things. So yeah, there was no chance of Santa. But what I did believe in the Tooth Fairy.
Okay.
I believed in the Tooth Fairy. My heart was broken when I found my dad. He accidentally woke me up sneaking money underneath my pillow. And that's when I realized, I stuck my hand in there and I was like, and I realized it was him all along. That one hurt.
Now, were you upset because you thought he probably should be giving you more money, or like?
No, I was upset because I thought she really
Betrayed.
cared about me, and if I brush my teeth really good and do this, then the tooth fairy would come. Oh, and my mom would describe her and all this kind of. I just imagined that this princess would come and she was doing things, and I was trying to be extra good for her and all this kind of stuff, and to find out it was a trick.
It's like a betrayal. It is.
It is.
But we keep doing it to our kids.
No,
generation after generation. You didn't?
Nope,
Okay, good.
That one stopped.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
That one stopped.
All right, what was your favorite childhood TV show?
My favorite childhood TV show, Dukes of Hazzard.
Good answer. That was fantastic.
Just jump your car off of nothing.
Yeah, and shoot things with bow and arrow with light or what
Just
did they have? They
explode.
attached dynamite to
I
their
had no,
arrows.
I had listen, and that's the beauty of growing up when we did, right? Because I had no idea that I was not the intended demographic for that show.
These were awesome. We didn't
I
care.
just sat around and loved it. I had no clues. Just driving around fast, just good old boy, right?
That's
There
right,
we
yeah.
go. Yeah, exactly. I had no, and it's interesting now thinking back, just my parents, what they must have thought as their son is sitting on the floor, watching Dukes of Hazzard every weekend, when it came on or whatever, just what was going through your head is what I have failed you. I have failed you.
What have I done to my child? Yes.
This was not what the dream supposed to be like.
Now, at least you didn't stay tuned for the next show. Hee haw! If you did
no.
that, now that's
No.
taking it to a whole nother level.
No, I didn't understand hee haw because
Yeah.
if it would show up with a cartoon, it wasn't a cartoon. I was like, okay,
Right.
I don't get this.
That was taking it to a whole nother. Yeah. Okay. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Every language in the world.
You don't want to hear what an animal's got to say, huh?
No.
Yeah,
No,
okay,
people.
that's fair.
People.
You're not gonna
I'd rather
learn
what
much.
people would say.
You
I'd
won't
rather what
learn much
people would
from
say. I
an
know
animal.
I'm hungry. Don't eat me. I'm scared. Yeah, no, got it.
I did like that one Star Trek where he did the mind meld on a whale. I don't know how that works, but it feels
Star
like
Trek
that's
4, The Voyage Home.
the voyage home. Yeah, well, it doesn't
Yeah.
seem like that should be possible to mind meld a whale, though. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I guess it's. I don't know. You know what? If Spock was Beta Z, it would work better because it's emotions. I don't know. Maybe Troy. Maybe getting Troy in the water. and
Troy should have jumped in there. in the
she
pool
could have
with
jumped
it.
in the pool with it and mind meld.
Now here's one this is getting into really deep thoughts. The
Got it.
Jack Handy level deep thought.
Okay.
Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
It is wrong for a vegetarian to eat anything suggested or named after something that has meat. They should stick with vegetables. Don't try to make vegetarian wings and vegetarian salami. No, you gave that up. Stick with. Listen, you don't see me as a omnivore trying to. You know what? I want to make chicken broccoli. No, I don't do it. I have broccoli. I have chicken. Stick to your lanes. No, you shouldn't have it.
Yeah, if you're going to yell at us all the time,
Then stay over there.
I was a vegan for a while, but just to get my cholesterol down. But if you're going to yell at us, then
Right.
hey, be committed.
Be committed.
Do
Be
your
committed.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, when the vegans are throwing paint on you but they're wearing leather belts. Oh,
Right.
hold on a
Yeah.
second.
Hey, come
here.
on now. Hold on. No, you don't get to do that.
All right. What place is it that you would most want to travel to?
Wow. The place I'd most love to travel to, orbit. I'd love to see the Earth from orbit. And not the Blue Origins Amazon go up, come down. No. I would want full being able to see the entire Earth.
But they got to claim they were astronauts.
No. There are rules, Lebowski.
Yeah, we got to set the bar higher for astronaut. If those people got to claim they were astronauts,
exactly.
No. Yeah, I don't even remember who it was. There was someone on there that was like, "No, we're changing the definition." If that's if you
exactly.
Get to be,
no, that doesn't work.
Name one of the 7 dwarfs.
Grumpy.
Okay, all right. What's your favorite type of tea?
Earl Grey.
Earl Grey. Isn't that a Bond thing or something?
I know.
No, that's
Picard liked it.
Picard,
yeah.
That's what it was. I knew it was an Asian accent. Yeah. Tea, Earl Grey. Computer.
Tea, Earl Grey. Hot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. What is the fastest speed you've ever driven in a car?
Fastest speed I've ever driven in a car was 160.
That's moving.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I got to hear this. When did this happen? How did this happen?
So I had a supervisor, that one time let me stay at his place while he was on vacation, and he had a I think it was like the Z300 in
Mhm.
the garage that he told me not to take out. I took it out.
It sounds like a Will Smith song.
I took it out. Yeah, also told me not to have friends over, had a pool. I mean, I had a
Mhm.
boat in the back to the canal, told me not to mess with it. I messed with all of
Okay. Okay.
it. Yes, exactly. So
She
yeah, that was
left
the
the
fastest I did.
keys to the
Yeah,
brand new Porsche. Would they
right.
mind?
Yeah,
Well,
scary.
yeah.
Scary, 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 scary. Scary dumb though when I look back at it. Dumb thing
160,
to do.
yeah, parents just
Yeah.
don't understand. All
No,
right.
they don't.
Let's see. Last one. This is the grand finale.
All
And
right,
this
what
is
we
for all
got?
the marbles. How many hours of sleep do you need a night?
Do I need? That
Yeah, like
depends.
if you're waking up in the next day and you're like, oh, I feel good.
Oh, I mean, I can. For me, if I feel good, if I get a solid 7, I feel good off of a solid 7. I could pass for a human off of 4.5.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, seven's a good metric for me.
I think that number keeps going up as I get older. I used to be like, oh, if I sleep 2 hours, I could make it through the next day. I don't know if I could do that anymore.
I mean, I don't like that version of me that makes it through that next day. I could do it. Not too many of those strung together.
Yeah.
I just don't like how that. I just don't like the mileage that puts on me.
Mm,
I'd rather get 7. But
yeah.
yeah,
7
yeah,
hours.
7's
That's
good.
respectable.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, that does it for the lightning round. Those were okay answers. I mean,
But what do you
good,
mean?
okay. I don't know.
They were
As I said,
fantastic
yeah,
answers.
yeah. As I said, we've got this algorithm. It takes a
It,
quantum computer to do
right,
it, like
right. Well, let's
IBM
collapse the
quantum.
probability and show that these were the best answers that anybody's ever going to get. We're going to
Right.
collapse that quantum state, and
Yeah.
then everybody's going to be good.
But once you observe it, then you change the quantum state. Like that's the
But
thing. It's
because
like the
I've already
Schrodinger's.
I've already observed that these are the best answers. You just haven't looked at it yet. All right, this double slit experiment is not going to fail. I've already collapsed it for
You
you
already
by
know.
being on the show. You've done this.
Man, you're like Doctor Strange, I've already gone through the 14 gazillion
Exactly, right.
possibilities, and
And
this is
forgot
the
that I
one.
have the ability to turn time at the back and maybe bring Tony back. I could actually do that, but I forgot I could do that as well.
Now, the contract was too expensive. I think they
There
just
we
said, you
go.
know what,
That's
forget the
it.
time stone for this one. Yeah,
This guy's expensive.
that's right.
Yes.
Okay. Anything you've got, that's our last lightning round question. Anything you've got coming up here in the near future? Have you got are you giving talks anywhere? Are you got a book
Yeah.
coming out? Anything like that coming on?
Sure. So yeah, I'm going. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be in Washington D.C. for the government IT summit, where we'll be talking about agentic systems and AI from the government and federal land space, particularly related to governance and the guardrails there. Hopefully, the government will be open for me to have
Mhm.
an audience to talk to at DC, but that's the current plan. And then I'll be on the West Coast talking to some more partners and vendors about how we scale up and push transformation as an AI benchmark. So those are some of the things that are on deck for me in November and December.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Any books or blog posts or anything cool you got coming up? Anything
I
like
mean,
that?
so I'm posting on LinkedIn, every week, and usually my stuff has a Gen X flair or sci-fi movies flair as well as that. People keep telling me I need to put some of these Mike-isms down in a book someplace. So I guess once I slow down a little bit, maybe I'll write something and throw that out there.
All right. And is that the best place for folks to learn more about you, just through kind of following you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. Check me out, Michael Pompey. The good-looking guy. If you see the other guy, that's probably my dad. No offense,
Good.
Dad, but he doesn't have his picture up. That's how you can't tell he's not as good-looking as me. But yeah, you could definitely find me there and just connect. I'm always open to a conversation. My motto is to lean in and learn in from everybody I meet. So, let's keep the conversations going. I think conversations is where our power and value as a species come from. And the minute we stop talking is the minute we stop progressing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. All right. This has been fantastic. This has been great. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
I knew after I heard your keynote, I was like, I got to have this guy on our podcast.
Yeah, let's do this.
I knew everybody would love hearing from you. The Gen X thing, that won me over right there for sure. All right. If you would like to get in touch with us here at the /, drop us a line at the/@calibrity.com. See you next time.
Excellent. Take care.
The /podcast is created by Calibrity. The /team is Director and producer Ryan Wilson. Editing by Steve Baradelli. Marketing support by Taylor Blessing. And I'm your host, James Carmen. Thanks for listening.